We're almost ready. You'll be live on YouTube. We're almost ready. Okay, you're live.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for attending this afternoon's meeting
We're
of
almost ready.
Amador Valley
Okay,
Transit
you're live.
Authority. We will start the meeting as we always do with the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll now have the roll call. Item number 2, please.
Director Scott Haggerty,
Here.
Director Melissa Hernandez,
Here.
Chair David Halbert,
Here.
Director Carla Brown,
Here.
Director Jerry Penton,
Here.
Director Bob Coomber,
Here.
Vice Chair Bob Warner.
Here.
Vice Chair Bob Warner.
Here.
Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Item number 3 is meeting open to the public, a chance for members of the public to make comment on any item not on the agenda. I have no speaker slips forwarded to me, and I believe there are no waiting speakers. Is that correct?
That is correct.
With that, we'll move to item 4, the consent calendar, and I will move approval of the consent calendar and ask for a second.
I'll second.
Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Scott Haggerty,
Yes.
Melissa Hernandez,
Yes.
David Hubbard,
Yes.
Carla Brown,
Yes.
Jerry Penton,
Yes.
Bob Coomber,
Yes.
Bob Warner.
Yes.
Thank you. The item passes unanimously. We'll move to item number 5, Labda's operating and capital budget for fiscal year 2021.
Thank you. So the budget we're presenting for FY21 is based on running the same number of revenue hours in FY20. The budget reflects a 1.9% increase in expenses and a decrease of 15% in tax-based revenues. Staff is asking the board to approve this budget with the realization that we'll need to come back to the board for a revision in the near future. We are asking the board to approve this budget so that we may move forward with requesting our revenues for FY21 to ensure that we don't have any issues with cash flow. As more information is known about the effects of COVID-19 on the economy, both for next fiscal year and future fiscal years, staff will bring to the board expected changes in revenues and changes in expenditures to match those revenues. This discussion will need to include the desirable service levels and a policy decision on the use of reserves. Prior to presenting to the board some scenarios and options, staff will take another look at each line item of the budget to determine how they will be affected by the changes in service levels. Staff will also be looking at our staffing levels and configuration to determine what the best options are given the new reality. Any questions, discussion?
Are there any clarifying questions or comments from members of the committee?
Sure, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Haggerty.
I just wanted to warn staff that as MTC moves forward with CARES funding and the various fundings that will come out, today we had our first meeting. It was not all the members, just chairs, but of our new Blue Ribbon panel. And as they approach the CARES funding, the next round, the second tranche, they're going to be looking very deeply into what have we done to help ourselves. So going to Saturday type service like we have, any other cutting costs within the organization, although I realize we run more lean than most and some have a ton of fat to cut. But this committee is going to be looking at that over the next, well, I didn't even take the chairmanship of this committee because I don't believe I'll be around to finish it. But the first order of business is the CARES funding.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments about the item number 5? Is this looking for an action?
I'll move it.
Second,
I'll second.
we have a roll call vote.
Scott Haggerty,
Aye.
Melissa Hernandez,
Aye.
David Halbert,
Yes.
Carla Brown,
Yes.
Jerry Penton,
Yes.
Bob Coomber,
Aye.
Bob Warner.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Item number 6 is the executive director's report.
Well, good afternoon, and my goodness, 6 minutes into the meeting, this could be a record if I keep my part quick. I just certainly want to recognize that it's almost every day now that we're getting updates on how COVID-19 and this economy will affect us moving forward. On Friday, I think when we left the office, we felt like transportation sales tax funds would go down about 15% going into fiscal year 21. And this morning in our staff meeting, we're informed that the newest update is actually 30% for transportation sales tax decreases for public transit, and then probably 40% decrease in the bridge toll funds that we receive for the system. And so it's kind of an evolving picture. You approving the budget gets us off to where we're ensuring that revenues will be there moving forward. But I think the tone is that probably at the next board meeting, we'll look at a couple of different scenarios and budgets to accompany those ridership and funding scenarios and staffing levels. So we're talking about it every day now that we've kind of got the system kind of humming along with that without major day-to-day crisis moments. But I think if I had to characterize what's going on out there, I think that things have kind of stabilized, and we're handing out masks to folks who want to board the bus that don't have a mask, and we're finding that that's only just a couple each day. And we haven't had any major disruptions with folks just plain refusing to wear the masks. So that's been nice. There's a lot going on with that said, in addition to just looking at the budget and these scenarios and getting ready to bring to you more substantial decision moments about the operations. But you have some of them in your executive director's report. We continue to work on capital projects, the upgrade of the intersections with transit signal priorities. I think we're about done in Dublin, and Jennifer Yeamans is on the line as a panelist and can provide any updated information. I think Pleasanton is getting ready, hopefully, to be the next city that will have those transit signal priority upgrades done. And then we'll be rolling in this summer with the Santa Rita Road rapid bus stop upgrade project. And then certainly the bus stop sign project you might have seen in the executive director's report. We talked about it in PNS, but for those on the FNA, there is a new updated wheels bus stop sign to replace the outdated logos that are currently on the bus stop signs on all the routes except for the rapid routes, because they have their own logo and design. So we'll probably see a lot happening with that project in May and June, keeping folks busy. And then the Dublin parking garage, Jennifer has certainly any updates to that if you're interested in that project, and the shared autonomous vehicle project as well. Tone's been working hard. And if I haven't introduced you all to Tone Tron, he's your new operations and innovation director, really capable person who has worked with OCTA, that's the Orange County Transportation Authority in the Southland, and also with Stockton RTD, his most recent agency that he worked for prior to coming to LAFTA. So I'm sure the rest of the team would echo my comments in saying that he has a ton of capacity, and we're glad he's on board. But would be happy to take any other comments that you might have. I think you should all be receiving a confidential memo from Michael Conran probably in the next few days, just kind of bringing you up to speed on an incident that we reported to you on April 13th and regarding an operator and a discharge of a weapon and a passenger conflict situation. So Michael's, he'll be providing you an update on that incident. But be happy to answer any questions you have. Currently, I think we're just kind of stabilized, carrying about 10% of what we had carried prior to COVID-19 on the system. So we've ratcheted it down to Saturday schedule throughout the week. We're looking to further decrease the service at some point. The main issue with decreasing it further at the moment, and what I'm thinking about is the rapids going from a 30-minute frequency to a 1-hour frequency. It's just been mainly a social distancing issue. At times during the day, there would be too many people if we had it on an hour headway, those routes. There'd be too many folks on the bus for adequate social distancing to occur. So we're making some modifications. We're looking at kind of the final details of some modifications on the 40-foot buses to accommodate more folks on the bus with the right social distancing. And I think at that point, we'll come to you and talk about taking the rapids down to an hour frequency. But you can see from the operational statistics that accompany the executive director's report, once we hit March, everything just kind of fell apart as far as the ridership. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions from the board?
Yes,
Commissioner Brown.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to let everybody on the board know, including Michael, that I had a conversation with the city manager. And now that this county has eased up some of the restrictions through the public health department, he intends to call Jennifer or you this coming week to start work and get our TSP system as well as those shelters along Santa Rita and get approval for that. So thanks to the county, we should be able to start working again. So pretty exciting.
Nice.
With regards to lower ridership, I know many people are not taking BART for many reasons, but one of it is that there's so little traffic on the road. So much of our work we've developed is increasing ridership so that people can take Wheels to BART, Wheels to ACE, and other mass transit methods. Have you heard anything about how BART's doing in terms of getting their ridership up? Or are they similar numbers to us and we're just in this together?
I think we're in it together from what I hear. Matter of fact, they may be even a little worse off than we are. I think the last time I checked in with Bobby was carrying like 6 or 7% of what he normally carries. So I think they're really working on a long-term recovery plan, but they're not seeing a quick increase back with the ridership.
And I assume all schools are in the same situation, that there probably won't be school attendance. So our school trippers, which normally carry nice ridership numbers for us, won't be occurring this year, but will be starting hopefully next year. At this point, we're just hopeful. Sounds right? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
David?
Commissioner Haggerty.
Yeah, I raised my hand. I don't know if you're using the hand function or not. I just wanted to just say that it is not the county. It is the county health officer. It is one person that works for somebody that works for me. So they have extreme amount of power, and we can't interfere with them at all. But I would also say that I don't think that project had to stop because it was deemed an essential project, and essential public work projects could have went forward. So when I saw it was stopped, I was kind of amazed by that. But having said all that, Michael, are there any routes where we're actually seeing 0 passengers? Have we analyzed for that?
Yeah, there's no routes where we have 0 passengers, but there certainly are a few routes where we have an average passenger count of about 1 per loop or 1 per hour. And I think we're really starting to focus in on those routes, as well as this half an hour frequency on the rapid routes, taking that down to an hour. We did get Go Tri Valley up and going, and so folks do have kind of an alternative means of getting around if the frequencies don't work for them on the bus system. So now that we've got that up and going, we've really started to focus in on where just unacceptable levels of ridership are out there, so we can talk to you about it and have a strategy for reducing service further, which I think we'll recommend to you in the real near future.
Very, very good, very good. Anybody else? Questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a
Mr.
question.
Werner, go ahead.
First of all, just as a follow-up to that, you've got those routes with just very few people. Do we do any effort to see where they're going and what the other options for them might be? And I was thinking that as the restrictions are eased up, we might get more people riding again. So we don't want to get shutting down routes that people, as restrictions ease, that they might need. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I just want to say, I didn't say shut any routes down, because quite frankly, the governor is probably going to go on TV today, tomorrow, or the next day and go to stage 2. So that's going to start loosening things up, and we will see more riders. I will say this, that part of that Blue Ribbon Committee I talked about earlier, they're going to look at this very closely, this issue, because there's a tremendous, and I'm not really one of them, but there's a tremendous amount of people that believe transit ridership will not recover for a very long time, because people are not going to want to get on a BART train. They're not going to want to get on a bus. They'll take their own car, they'll carpool, but there's just a lot of people out there that believe nobody will be riding transit for, well, I don't want to say nobody, but very few people will be riding transit for quite a while.
So
That's because of the health concerns, Commissioner Haggerty, of being on a
Yeah.
bus where other people may get infected. Okay, I can understand that. Bob, you want to follow up?
maybe I jumped the gun on saying shutting some routes down, but if in fact it's true that there will be very low ridership for a long time to come, what's our approach to dealing with that? I mean, if it's making the routes even more infrequent, or just when do we kind of think about this? What's the plan for that?
Tony, you have some thoughts there that you want to share, and then I'll clean up anything.
Yeah, I apologize for the video malfunction, but you get to see how my name is spelled. So the routes that are probably the lowest right now are the Route 3 that goes between the two BART stations and also serves the Stone Ridge Mall, which is closed. The Route 14, which serves the outlet malls, and they're closed. So when those facilities open up, you could see the ridership on those coming back up. One of our other low ridership routes is the Route 1 in Dublin that goes between the Santa Rita Jail and the BART station. And that's one we've just kept in operation for the releases that they seem to be doing periodically, just to get those folks shuttled between the jail and the BART station. As far as where we are now to where we could be, most of the routes only have one bus on them right now. And if we cut service, we have 0 buses. If we add a bus, you go from hourly service to half hourly. So that's the basic process, is to go back almost to normal.
Okay, then
We
thank
save with the bus service reduction. Do we actually save much by going to? I mean, we still have a driver. Are they covering multiple routes? Are we able to reduce driver count, or what is it that we truly save?
By reducing service more than we have,
Yeah.
you save the fuel cost, and in the short term, that's about it. We have an agreement with MV currently that the drivers who are coming to work are continuing to get paid.
Yep.
And until that agreement expires, then your savings are probably in the, a much smaller number than if you were to furlough the drivers.
Understood. Okay, thank you. Bob, did you have a follow-up question? I think I saw you.
Yeah, I had one other question. You know, in the projects and services meeting, you guys brought up the fact that our calls to the police for incident help had increased dramatically. Any thoughts on that as to anything we need to do or think about, or do you see that those calls diminishing? The number that stuck in my mind is, as you said, the ridership is 90%, but rather than having an incident call once every month or two, we're having one every day.
Well, part of it, I think the calls that we've had to the police have been either unruly passengers or passengers who didn't wish to exit the bus. When you go to a fare-free system, you can have a tendency to have what is referred to as a carousel rider. They just ride and ride and ride and ride and ride. We implemented a policy that you could only do one full round trip because under the definition of essential travel, you would have passed every possible destination of essential travel once you've made one complete round trip. So it was our position that a person would need to exit the bus either at the BART station or at the transit center, which would then permit them to get on another bus the next time one came through, but you couldn't just stay on the same bus all day. So those probably accounted for 3 or 4 of the individuals where the police were called. There was another one last week where a person was drinking alcohol on the bus. And so the police had to be called because he just wouldn't put it away. The good news was he was wearing a mask. He was just pulling it down every time he took a drink.
Well, my question was not necessarily the details, but is it moderating it over time, or is there anything that you guys need to do differently?
No, it seems to be moderating. I don't think we've had an incident in the last week, except for the drinking guy.
It's definitely decreased.
Great. Any more questions? Michael, does that conclude your executive director's report?
It does.
All right, thank you very much. Matters introduced by the board, anything? Anybody want to raise your hand? Seeing none, our next meeting will be June 1st. Thank you all for attending. Thank you to the Labda staff for making sure we have all of the technology working well. And have a great month.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.